I was born in Utah and have lived here my entire life, and that's given me a really unique perspective on how things have changed over the years. In addition, it's given me a lot of insight into the good and bad of each individual area. I've lived in a number of cities here across the Salt Lake region, and there's a lot of individual nuance to each particular area. I think that probably from an outsider's perspective, a lot of the cities seem to blend together and all kind of have the same general feel. Maybe they kind of look the same and seem like they have the same things to offer, but that's not quite true. There's a lot of things to consider with each individual city, even if they're only about 10 or 15 minutes apart from each other. In this video, we're going to break it all down. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, and play here along the Wasatch Front. My name is Cody Steck. I'm a local real estate agent who's been selling real estate for 12 years and been doing a ton of videos just like this. I made over 500 videos for just this channel alone, and I would love to hear from you. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here in Utah, anywhere across the entire state, my team and I service the whole area. We'd love to hear from you. Please call me, text me, email me anytime. My information is here on the screen. I love hearing from you guys. I've had over 1,000 people reach out over the last couple of years, and I cannot wait to hear from you as well. So as we jump into this video, we're going to break it down. Like I said, we're talking about the 3 cities that I would consider and put at the top of my list if I were moving here in 2025. Now, I chose these areas based on a number of different factors, such as the amenities that you're going to have there, the cost of living, what you get in a neighborhood, how it feels, how it looks, a lot of different factors when it comes to this. We're also going to be talking about lot size. We're going to talk about how big the homes are and what type of value you get for that, as well as other things like privacy and style of home in that particular area. Beyond that, I've also considered what things there are to do as far as entertainment or recreation in each of these cities. Now, at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. The cities that I state here in this video are not going to be a fit for everybody. I recognize that. And yes, I do sell homes to people who are looking outside of these 3 cities. However, if you're just starting your search, I would recommend at least putting the 3 cities that I'm going to mention on the top of your list to at least consider, right? It might be worth a consideration, because the thing I found is that I myself live in the #1 city particularly. So of course I'm a bit biased, but to be honest, about 75% of the people who reach out from videos just like this end up moving to one of these 3 cities or somewhere very close nearby. So there's a lot of demand for these particular areas, and that's for a good reason. It's because you get a lot of bang for your buck. They're great neighborhoods, great schools, a lot of great things going for them. So we're going to break it down. We're going to do countdown style. We're going to start with number 3 on our list here. We're going to count down to number 2, then number 1, talk about a little bit of pros and cons on each one. And with that said, let's quit wasting time. Let's jump into it. So let's start it off. Number 3 on our list is going to be South Jordan. Now, I should also add a disclaimer that as I talk about South Jordan, I'm also kind of referencing some of the areas around that. So that would include Riverton, Bluffdale, and even potentially Harriman. A lot of these cities are going to look and feel the same, but specifically I want to talk about South Jordan. Maybe you end up looking somewhere nearby just for a different variety of reasons, right? Maybe you find the right house in an area nearby, or maybe it's closer to family or closer to work. Something like that might be worth considering. But for this instance, we're going to talk about South Jordan. Now, South Jordan is one of the best cities. You've got pretty good schools there, ranks number 3 out of the top schools in the metro area. So that's a great thing going for it. You also get family-friendly neighborhoods, new homes, and it's an up-and-coming area. If you've driven through South Jordan or visited the area, it is just absolutely booming. It is crazy to see how much growth is happening in this particular area. Because of that, there's been a lot of new families, younger families that have moved into this particular area, and it's also centrally located. It's easy to get to the airport. It's easy to get downtown. It's easy to go to Utah County. A lot of people who live in South Jordan actually work in Utah County, maybe one of the tech companies, the healthcare companies, or any of the other hundreds of companies down that way. So it's very centrally located, great schools. You get a great home for your money. You know, median home price in South Jordan for a single family home is about $650 to $700. It ranges, you know, based on time of year, but that's actually pretty good for your money. You're going to get a very nice home in that particular area. It's definitely an area that I would consider and put at the top of my list if I was looking at moving here. Now, as I mentioned, I also want to throw out some negative things, because even though these are the top 3 cities on my list that I would consider if I were moving here, there are going to be some negative things that you need to consider as you go out and you explore these different areas. So one of the things I want to mention about South Jordan is that you are going to have a little bit more traffic than you would find in other areas. The reason for this is because it is a newer area that also sees much higher density, but the infrastructure, the roads, the parking lots, everything like that has not quite been able to handle the increased traffic that you see in the area. So as it continues to get built out, it becomes more and more and more dense with condos, townhomes, apartments, even single family homes that are being built. So you are going to experience a bit more traffic than some of the other areas that we will mention on this list. Additionally, it can also feel a little bit empty because you have these new neighborhoods. They're not really built out with big tall trees or shrubs or anything like that. Although the landscaping is very nice in most of these parts, you are going to find some trees that are basically just small baby trees, right? Now, for me personally, that is something that I kind of value. I like being able to see bigger trees. I like being able to have a more mature neighborhood and landscaping as you travel around the city. That is something that's going to be a bit lacking in South Jordan because it's mostly just newer areas that are yet to build out and yet to see the mature landscaping that you see in some of the other areas. All right, number 2 on our list, we are talking about Lehi, and I'm also going to group in Highland and Alpine as additional kind of sub-contenders for this number 2 city. Now, I know I said that these are going to be the top 3 cities, but because these areas do look and feel somewhat similar, I do also want to throw in these other options as potential areas to look. The main focus of this number 2 item is going to be the city of Lehi, though. In my opinion, Lehi has some of the best all-around features that anybody could be looking for when coming to a new area. If you're moving to the area, you've got a lot of things to consider with Lehi. There's basically no bad areas of Lehi. Yes, there are some older parts of town. Lehi is an older city. You will find areas that have, homes built in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You can find that, but most of the stuff in Lehi seems to have been built in the last 10, 20, 30 years. So it has a new, great feel to it. As compared to South Jordan, which we just talked about, Lehi, it seems to me at least to be a little bit older and a little bit more mature when you're driving around town. You get mature neighborhoods, you get mature trees, and you get great access to everything that's around that area. You're right at the point in the mountain, which means getting up to Salt Lake City, to the airport, is very easy from there as well because you're so close to I-15. You can also go south, or perhaps you're maybe even staying right in Lehi itself because of the amazing amenities and job opportunities that are right there in that area. If you can consider living in Lehi, it definitely should be in the top 3 cities that you consider, especially if you've got work or family nearby. Now, Lehi is also a unique landscape. A large part of it is built up onto the hillside of the mountain, and there's also some parts that are going to be kind of considered in the river bottoms where the Jordan River actually flows from Utah Lake. So you do get a variety of landscapes in Lehi specifically. If you are up on the hillside, you can get amazing views of the valley, the lake, the mountains. The views are just absolutely phenomenal, and that's a huge selling point for a lot of people. You also have a great mixture of homes. You can get everything from maybe a $400,000 condo, maybe even high 300s, a townhome 4, 5, 600,000, or single family home ranging from 500,000 to 5 million. You've got every type of house that you could be looking for, no matter what your budget is. You also get a great balance of lot size as well as home value. In my opinion, lot sizes are shrinking. We see a lot of new construction homes going on smaller and smaller lots. This is one of the main reasons why a lot of other cities actually didn't make the list here in this video. I think Lehi offers a great balance where you get a lot that is usable. It's big enough for the kids, big enough for the dog, whatever it may be. You have a little bit of space and privacy from your neighbors, but it's not so big that it's impossible to manage. It's impossible to keep clean, to keep looking nice, right? So you get kind of the perfect balance. And of course, you can find bigger or smaller lots just depending on what you're looking for. It's going to be personal preference for you. I do also want to mention that Highland and Alpine get honorable mentions for, kind of sub-cities to the Lehi area. The reason why I like these areas is because they're a little bit nicer, especially Alpine, and they're a bit more private. Talking about Highland and Alpine, these are very similar to Lehi. They're very centrally located, easy to access, but they are a bit more residential. So they're going to be a little bit quieter, a little bit more private, and you're also going to get bigger lots. So if you're looking at the upper echelons of price range, maybe you're going 800,000, a million, maybe 1.5 or above, definitely consider Highland and Alpine as well. Now, across all 3 of these cities, they are in Alpine School District, which is the #1 ranking school district here in the metro area. So schools are going to be absolutely phenomenal across the board. You also have pretty easy access to the mountains for hiking. However, this is where we get into some of the negatives for this area. Even though you do have easy access to mountains for hiking or climbing or just getting outdoors for some nature, you are going to be further from the ski resorts as well as from areas like Park City. So that is something to consider. If you love skiing, you love snowboarding, this is going to be a little bit of a further drive than some of these other areas that we're talking about. Now, I do also want to mention that in this particular area, there can be a little bit of a sense of, let's say, keeping up with the Joneses or maybe some egos from people. It seems like, it's just kind of the nature of this particular area. There's a lot of tech jobs. There's a lot of high paying jobs in this area. So you get a little bit of that ego. You get a little bit of that rat race culture that I think a lot of people, either like or don't like, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast. Now, I don't don't think that, should paint a picture across the whole city or area. I think that's going to be, a little bit rare for the instance, but it's definitely going to have a little bit more of an impact than some of these other cities that we're talking about. To be honest, in my opinion, if you're looking in Lehi specifically, I would try to go on the east side of Lehi or even over to Highland as much as you can. To be honest, in this particular area, there are not a lot of huge drawbacks that I can think of. There's a lot of really good things, not a lot of bad things. All right, now as we jump into number 1 on our list, guys, just a quick reminder, if you're looking to make a move here or you already live in the area and you want to buy, you want to sell, you want to invest in real estate, please reach out to me. My team and I service the entire state and we'd love to hear from you and help you along your journey. My information's here on the screen. Please call me, text me, email me. I love hearing from you guys. Like I said, over 1,000 people have reached out over just the last couple of years and I cannot wait to hear from you as well. So with that said, let's jump into number 1. Drum roll, please. Yes, we are going to talk about Sandy, Utah as number 1 on our list. Now, I'm extremely biased when it comes to Sandy because I grew up here and also live in the city currently. However, I do want to say that I've lived in a lot of other cities across the Salt Lake County area. I've never lived in Utah County, but I've lived in a lot of cities across Salt Lake and ended up back in Sandy for a number of reasons that we're going to talk about here today. Now, yes, it is familiar. I am biased, but I'm going to leave it up to you to make decisions based on your own personal situation, what makes the most sense for you. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I particularly love about Sandy and why it would be back at the top of my list if I were looking at making a move here. Number 1, I do have to mention that you get big built out neighborhoods that actually feel like suburban neighborhoods. You don't have the density that you're going to find in other cities. And yes, while I do think there is a need for density in certain areas, Sandy is one of those areas that does have some density in certain spots, but for the most part, probably 80 to 90% of the city is going to be fairly low density. I personally like this. I personally think it adds value to the neighborhood. It adds variety, it adds style, and it also adds a little bit of privacy between you and your neighbors. You're just close enough to have that feel of, yes, I've got neighbors around me, but I don't necessarily have to be walking on top of them every time I go to the store or walk outside and stand on my driveway. For me, that's a huge plus. In addition to the way that these neighborhoods feel, you also get bigger lots for the most part. Most lots, because of the low density, you're looking at somewhere between 1/5 to maybe 1/3 of an acre as the standard size across Sandy. Even if we group in other areas like Cottonwood Heights and Draper and even the east part of Midvale, this is pretty typical to what you're going to find. That also gives you the added benefit of having more privacy and also getting a more quiet feel around town. In addition to that quiet feel, you also have minimal traffic. Back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when these areas were expanding, I'm talking about Sandy, Cottonwood Heights, Draper, this surrounding area, when this area was really expanding, low density was the thing. They built roads that were there to accommodate the traffic that we had at that time. And to be honest, you really don't ever get any traffic here on the east side. That's a huge plus, especially if you're just going to the grocery store, to the movies, or going out to get some dinner. Traffic is really non-existent on the east side compared to a lot of other areas. In addition, you also have great schools. Like I said, the area here on the east side is going to rank in the top 3 schools, school districts, that is, for the metro area. So schools are going to be absolutely great. Now, another huge factor why I love living on the east side is the access to the mountains is absolutely some of the best that you can ever find. Unless you're literally living in the mountains, like Park City, let's say, the access that you get here for living in a suburban area is by far some of the best you'll find. The access to ski resorts is absolutely amazing. Even though I don't do a ton of snowboarding or skiing anymore, when I was much younger, I was there almost every single day because it's so easy to get up to the ski resorts. In addition, if you want to get out, you want to go hiking, you want to go climbing, that is also extremely easy. And I think it goes without mentioning, but the views of the Wasatch Mountains being so close to them is absolutely amazing. Sometimes I just stand at my house and I look up at the mountains and I'm only, maybe a mile or so from the base of the mountain, and it's absolutely crazy to see how beautiful it looks year round. Now, another thing to know about Sandy particularly is that most of the land is fully built out. I would argue that probably 95 to 98% of the land in the area has been built on at this point. So that means there's not a lot of new construction going on, and that means that the prices for land and for houses is going to continue to increase as the demand increases over time. Now, as I mentioned previously, every area has their negatives, and the thing we have to talk about with Sandy particularly is that for some people, the older homes you find here are not going to be a fit. Most of Sandy was built built out in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So you are going to find older homes, older floor plans, and older designs. For some people, this might not be a big issue, but for others, it is going to be a big concern and might even be a deal killer for them. Now, because of these older neighborhoods, we're talking homes that might be 30, 40, 50 years old at this point, you can find, a small percentage of the neighborhoods that feel a bit run down. This is probably only 10% of the neighborhoods that are out there, but you will find some neighborhoods that look a little bit rough, right? Maybe the sidewalks are cracking, the driveways are cracking, you've got these trees that maybe have grown but now have died, or maybe the landscaping's just not quite taken care of. You will find a small percentage of this, just like you will in any city, but I would say it's a bit more prominent in Sandy compared to some of the other cities we mentioned that are big, nice, new cities that have fresh landscaping and fresh infrastructure in them. And the last thing I want to mention is that the east-west traffic can be a little bit difficult in this area. Where I grew up in Sandy, I was very far east. I was on about 2400 east, and getting to the freeway was a little bit difficult. Sometimes it would take us 15 or even 20 minutes just to get to the freeway where you can head north or south. Not a huge deal, but something you have to account for, especially if you're driving, you're commuting to work every day. This might be something you have to factor in, is that sometimes the older nature of the roads here doesn't provide great east to west access when driving. That being said, guys, that wraps up our video. Reach out if I can do anything for you. I love hearing from you guys, and I would love to hear from you about how I can help you on your new journey. Whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, I'm here to be a resource for you. Call me, text me, email me, and we'll chat soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.